the Atul Subhash suicide case, where a Bengaluru-based techie claimed his own life, and that sparked a major debate around dowry and divorce laws in the country. In his 24-page suicide note, Atul Subhash said that his estranged wife and his in-laws used the IPC Section 498A, which deals with dowry, harassment, and so on. He claims that that law was misused by his wife and in-laws to blackmail him and to demand 3 crore rupees to withdraw all the cases that were filed against him. Atul Subhash's estranged wife had slapped 9 cases against him, including murder, dowry, harassment, unnatural sex, etc. While the estranged wife's family has denied the allegations, they have now left from their traditional home in Jaunpur in Uttar Pradesh. We don't know where they are. They are being socially ostracized. In fact, she works with a high-end private firm in Bengaluru. She's not shown up for work over the last 3 or 4 days since this case came to light. As the investigation in the case is underway, it's time to ask, is it time to take a long, hard look at divorce and dowry laws in the country? Is Section 498A, which deals with dowry harassment, being misused by some elements in the country?
जो आप पत्रकार करेंगे वो होगा, जो न्यायपालिका करेगी वो होगा, और पत्रकार और न्यायपालिका क्या है वो आप लोग डिसाइड कीजिए।
उसकी यही भावना थी कि और कोई अतुल सुभाष ऐसा नहीं करे, कानून में सुधार हो, कि कानून का जो गलत दुरुपयोग हो रहा है उस पर संशोधन करने की ज़रूरत है।
नहीं, अब बस स्वभाव अच्छा ही था, बहुत अच्छी थी, जो कुछ हुआ उसके साथ गलत हुआ।
All right, we'll be joined in a moment by Deepika Narayan Bharadwaj. She's one of India's foremost men's rights activists. Vandana Shah, lawyer and women's rights activist, is also joining us. Ashutosh Srivastav, senior advocate, is also joining us. Vandana Shah, let me start with you first. So in the specific case of Mr. Atul Subhash, there is a detailed documentation that he has left behind, 81-minute video that he has captured, a 24-page note, which all gives details of what he claims are his experiences of harassment and extortion by his estranged wife and his in-laws. He has accused them of creating a hostile environment which contributed to emotional distress, and that led to his suicide. Now, the point is that his case is not alone. The reason why this case seems to have captured the national imagination is a lot of men who are going through such, very, very harassing divorce cases in courts of law are able to relate with what he went through, and therefore are coming out, and you're seeing this outpouring of support. What is your argument for not wanting to reform the law, or at least put guardrails in this law so that it's not misused, something that even the Supreme Court took note of and has put out an 8-point sort of framework for alimony and such settlement cases?
Zakka, thank you for having me on the show, and I want to start by condoling Atul's death. And I just want to say that, this death was extremely, extremely tragic. But let's also look at another factor which is at play here. Firstly, I'm not against the reform of laws. I do say that we should have better laws, we should have better accountability, we should have better implementation of the laws. I'll explain point-wise what I'm talking about. Section 498A, which is now also known as 85 in the new BNS, it came into play. Let's look at the genesis. It came into play for protecting vulnerable women. It came into play to avoid giving dowry and the extortionate amounts of dowry that were expected to be paid by the woman's family whilst getting married. Whilst we are talking about Atul Subhash's case, we seem to have forgotten that there are about 6,500 dowry deaths per year in the country. There are about 13,500 cases which are lodged. 6,500 are dowry deaths. So that means 50% of the cases which are lodged by women, the women are dying either by suicide or they are being burnt. If you may recall the Kerala doctor's case, where she hung herself because of the extortionate dowry demands which were put before her. The to-be husband was also a doctor. He was also told, he said, give me a BMW. They wanted kgs and kgs of gold. So this law which came into place for protecting the vulnerable, and by vulnerable I say it came for protecting the vulnerable women. It's time to relook at the law, but let's not forget that there have been reforms in this law.
Okay.
No one seems to speak about that. When 498A came in, you could just go in immediately, arrest the husband's family, no questions asked. Now, if you have to arrest the husband's family, you must serve a notice under 41A to arrest the husband or the family. Now, you have to give a 48-hour notice to arrest them.
So let me
earlier we
ask
had Lalita
Ashutosh
Kumari in the
Srivastava,
Supreme Court, and
purely
now we
going
have
by
Anish Kumar.
NCRB statistics, the number of women who are harassed for dowry, the number of women who are harassed by their in-laws' families far outnumber the number of men who claim harassment. So yes,
That's
there may be shortcomings in the law, there may be abuse of certain sections of the law, but that doesn't mean you throw the baby and the bathwater out, Ashutosh. It means that you have to have better guardrails. For example,
reforms.
what the Supreme Court yesterday laid down is the 8 points that need to be met for alimony cases, for example.
Yeah.
But what has happened in Atul Subhash's case is that everybody is coming out and saying that all women are misusing 498.
See, there could be some genuine cases, no doubt. But if you see the conviction rate, where is the conviction rate? The issue is that the Supreme Court, while making such finding, the Supreme Court itself had said that, there has been clear abuse of process of law by majority of such cases being filed. So that cannot be denied. This is the finding by the apex court itself. Now, when
I don't think it said majority of cases. I think the court said there is abuse of the law.
There is
abuse of process of law.
There is a
this
law.
is what is
The law
1 minute.
came
Madam,
One
please let me
second,
speak.
Vandanaji, 1 second. Let Ashutosh finish, and then I'll come back to you after
1 minute. See, when you say that the demands of dowry, etc., as my learned friend just now said, now what is happening in these cases? Suppose if somebody is filing a case under 498A, now 85, or maybe Domestic Violence Act, what is happening? The husband, if he gives 3 crores, 1 crore, 2 crore, the matter is finished. The crime is over. Is it what is expected from these laws? So where is the dowry demand? Now this has become rather a legal way of demanding dowry from the husband side. Now it is not only the husband, even the husband's sister, husband's mother, they are the sufferers.
No, but Mr. Srivastava, one second. One limited point. No, 1 second, Mr. Srivastava.
Yes.
One limited point is dowry as a social evil, as a social practice in this country is always asked of the bride's family. It's never asked of the groom's family. So the reason why 498A came into existence was to prevent that practice, that social ill. Right?
I am making a point here that suppose if some woman goes and files a 498A case, she claims that there was a dowry demand. She claims that there was domestic violence. Now, what happens when this matter goes for mediation? There is absolutely a demand of an amount, as it happened in Atul case also. The demand was from 1 crore to 3 crores. Now, suppose if these 3 crores were paid, so that means the crime is over? Everything is all fine?
Okay.
So,
Vandana Shah, respond to that. See, I think there is a case. One second, there is a case to be made for some kind of a pre-investigation by the police or by an expert's body to have some kind of a preliminary investigation before filing dowry harassment cases, so as to prevent any of these frivolous complaints, because ultimately this can be devastating for families, for children most of all, and for the individuals concerned. So why don't we have that kind of a mechanism of having some kind of a preliminary investigation before a 498A case is registered and before, of course, any kind of penal action is taken against
there is a
the
preliminary
accused
investigation which is conducted. That is what I was talking about, the Anish Kumar judgment. After that, there is a preliminary investigation that is conducted before actually filing this case. I'd like to introduce another point about the responsibility of the police. Who are actually, I've said it in other debates and I've said it a lot of times even in court, that, the police seem to specialize in terrorizing the men whilst they register a case of 498A. What they do on a Friday night, you will get a notice that you will be arrested within 48 hours, or you have to be present before the police station. So on Saturday and Sunday, the poor men are running to try and get bail. The police also, when I said the police also have an active role in this, why can't you actually pull up even the corrupt police officers or
Okay.
the officers who are indulging in this kind of behavior and
No,
say,
so
all right,
let
you
me
can give a notice on a Monday.
let
He
me
has 48
let
hours
me
to apply for bail.
let me ask
So,
Deepika Narayan
so
Bharadwaj on
all
this.
this
The
were part
case
of the
that people
reforms.
are making for gender neutral legislation, current laws, the one section feels tend to favor women when it comes to domestic violence and dowry cases. And this could lead to situations where men are unfairly targeted. So, therefore, some legal experts like yourself have been talking about gender neutral legislation. The problem, ma'am, is that, as I said earlier, two things. One, the NCRB crime data is very, very clear that the number of women who either commit suicide or are killed for dowry demands, etc., far outnumber the number of men. This is NCRB data that's been put out there. And two, as a social practice, dowry has almost always been asked of the bride and the bride's family and not of the groom's family. So that's the reason why we have the dowry harassment against dowry prevention section of 498A. So how do you
Correct.
justify then having gender neutral laws when society itself is not neutral towards the woman? It's not an equitous where both men and women are equal. It is fairly stacked up and loaded against women. That's why you have 498A.
Well,
Deepika.
Zakka, tell me one thing. The countries that have gender neutral provisions, have we looked at the statistics over there? There are decent number of women who perpetrate domestic violence. There are decent number of women who are perpetrators of spousal murder. There are decent number of women who are perpetrators in sexual abuse cases. We do not have any mechanism as of now in 2024 in a country of 1.4 billion where we can assess how many men are suffering. What are you comparing the data with? Yes, there are women who are suffering, but how do I bring you the data of men who are suffering? Because there are no laws that they can register their complaints under. So it is not a fair comparison, Zakka. If you're talking about how many men are victims of cruelty, 498A can be filed only by a woman only, a married woman only. A married man, even if he is beaten up every day, day in, day out. And let's come to Atul Subhash's case only. According to him, his wife was demanding 50 lakhs from him in order to settle the career of a brother. Now, will you not call this dowry if this was a demand made by a husband to his wife? Could Atul register a case of 498A against his wife? No.
No.
But
One
he
second. I just
was
want to
a
clarify
victim,
for our viewers.
right?
This is an allegation he made. We don't know what
Yes.
the wife's side of
Well,
the story is. This is
there
an
All these
are
cases are
recorded
allegations only.
transactions,
I'd like to
white transactions of transfer of money from him to her that he has left evidences of. Of course, the investigation agencies are going to basically look into that, Zakka. But I will come to one more point, Zakka. You were saying that, why have no changes been made or anything like that? I would like to tell the audience here, in 2015, after the case of Arnesh Kumar judgment in 2014, after Supreme Court saying so many times that, the families are being harassed in 498A and everything, in Rajesh Sharma judgment, the Supreme Court said, please club these cases, have family welfare committees set up so that serious cases of crime against women versus these frivolous cases of incompatibility or any other reason of marriage breaking down that is converted into a 498A can be differentiated. There can be fairness. And they said paralegal volunteers, wives of retired army officers are going to be a part of this family welfare committee. The women's rights activist appealed that judgment, and then that judgment was scrapped. So you do not want any change to come in the system. You have 498 in 1983, then you have a Domestic Violence Act in 2005, you have 125 CRPC, now you want the marital rape case provision also to come. So the man can just only be a perpetrator and keep on facing one after the other, one after the other, one after. How many cases can a normal human being file?
Deepika, is it your case that 498A cannot then be filed by the police there has to be some kind of a mechanism where somebody looks at the case and comes to a preliminary judgment or a preliminary understanding that yes, this case merits 498A, otherwise 498A is being misused. Is that, are you saying that there has to be some kind of, a preliminary inquiry mechanism or a board or something that looks into the case before 498A can be applied?
What I'm saying, Zakka, is this man has died a very painful death. He wants justice for himself. Just like the country outraged in 2012 for Nirbhaya, the country is outraging right now for justice for men. There needs to be a committee set up as soon as possible. I am not a lawmaker. I am not going to tell you what is going to bring a solution, but we need a solution. And that is very evident with the outpour of emotions and feelings of thousands and lakhs of families of men today. Why isn't the parliament, why not even one member of parliament has spoken anything about this in the parliament?
So let me
no
ask
arrest has been
Vandana
made
Shah,
till now 4 days?
Atul's note does describe a pattern of emotional abuse, of financial extortion. Now, like I said, these are allegations. This is his side of the story. And I want to be clear to our viewers tonight as well, before I go to Vandana, is I don't think any of us here on this panel, certainly any of us here on this channel, sort of endorse suicide as a means of putting your point of view across or bringing attention to your case. I don't think that is the point of this debate at all. And to that extent, I, for one, vociferously and vehemently disagree with the method that Atul Subhash took, eventually, consuming and taking his own life. But I think it's very clear from whatever he has put out, Vandana Shah, that there was a pattern of emotional abuse, there was a pattern of financial extortion. He even has alleged that a particular judge was saying that the matter will be settled if certain money is paid to the court. I mean, my point is, all of this, the reason why this case has suddenly become a lightning rod is because many others are feeling the same way that Atul Subhash felt. Of course, none of them have taken the extreme step that he did, but it has touched a raw nerve amongst a lot of people, Vandana Shah.
Yes, so, I would like to say that there is a certain amount of gender weaponization of laws. I'm not denying that. There's also now POXO is being used to alienate the men from their children. And I am vehemently opposed to that. But I am also, Deepika mentioned, that there is a lot of abuse that the men are facing. But I also want to put on record that so are the women. You see the percentages. In my mind, the percentage would be about 90 to 10. But just because a few women are misusing the law, it does not mean that this law should not exist. I have a very, very sweet anecdote I'd like to narrate that, if I tomorrow get up and say that, I want to get married to so-and-so man, and I'm educated, I earn a certain amount of money, I have a certain amount of status because of my education, can I go and tell them, you give me dowry for marrying me? That can never ever happen till we bring about that socio-legal change where giving the dowry as well as accepting dowry, it should be an immediate punitive judgment in that favor, that anybody who indulges in this, so that later there are no allegations of dowry. There has to be greater accountability. There has to be greater investigation before lodging this complaint. And also, I want to say that there are various other methodologies. One can look at arbitration, you can look at mediation, you can look at, did you know that the PMO's office, you can lodge a complaint like this and they respond to you? Also, we are only restricted to 498A, but I just want to say, if men are facing financial extortion, there are other methods in law where you can go and lodge a complaint. Extortion is a crime.
Okay.
Even if it is within the four walls
we'll have to leave it at that. I'm completely
out
of time.
It is a crime.
Like I said, maybe the time has come to take a long, hard look at the abuse, albeit a section of people who might be abusing this particular provision, 498A, in the old IPC and 85 in the current BNS, and whether there needs to be guardrails and mechanisms put in place preventing that abuse, preventing that misuse. That is something that definitely Parliament also needs to consider. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater, I think would be wrong. And I want to reiterate once again, the reason why we are putting this up on the debate tonight here on Brass Tacks is we want to highlight the cases of such abuse. We do not want to in any way come across as endorsing what Atul Subhash did, which is to claim his own life.